Welcome to the deep dive. If you are joining us today, you probably share our core mission,
Right. Absolutely.
which is, parsing through just this vast ocean of information out there to find the actual signals in the noise.
Yeah, avoiding that total information fatigue.
Exactly. You want multiple perspectives, real takeaways, and zero fluff. And today we are focusing our lens on a really highly specific, uniquely fascinating slice of the internet.
It really is unique.
We're looking at a single blog post, and this was published on March 3rd, 2026.
Right.
The source is qianmeng.org, which is this personal journal of a creator named Qian Meng.
And he describes himself quite unassumingly, I'd say, as an old software plumber.
I love that phrase.
Right. And the post we are unpacking today has a title that just immediately demands your attention. It's called Notes on Gardening, Part 823.
Part 823.
Yeah, and the subtitle is On Handling Intervenal Chlorosis.
Just that title alone tells such a story. Part 823. We are stepping into a stream of thought that has clearly been flowing for a very, very long time.
Definitely.
And the core juxtaposition here is what makes this source material so compelling. You've got someone whose professional and really intellectual life
Right.
is deeply rooted in the digital realm.
Specifically, the world of free, libre, and open source software.
Right, flawless.
Yeah.
And he's taking that rigorous, highly structured, analytical framework of a software engineer.
And applying it directly to plant cuttings.
Exactly. To the messy, unpredictable, fundamentally organic world of dirt and leaves. Okay, let's unpack this, because to understand the significance of this single post about a yellowing leaf, we first need to look at the landscape of his entire digital archive.
Yeah, because when you examine the broader context of the site, it becomes clear pretty quickly that this is not just some casual, occasionally updated diary.
Not at all.
It is a sprawling, meticulously categorized knowledge base. The sheer volume of output is just a testament to an extraordinary level of discipline.
It's staggering.
It is. Looking at his production across recent years, specifically 2022, 2023, and 2024, he consistently published over 730 posts annually.
Which is just wild to think about. That's roughly 2 posts a day.
Every single day. And that rhythm continues right through 2025 and into early 2026.
Maintaining that kind of cadence requires a very specific kind of systemic thinking. It means the friction between, having a thought, executing an experiment, and documenting the result has been almost entirely eliminated.
Yes.
He's consistently logging around 60 to 62 posts a month. And while that volume is super impressive, the actual subject matter is where the true value lies.
Because you might assume an old software plumber would dedicate a massive archive solely to code.
Right, and there is certainly a wealth of that.
Oh, yeah. He has extensive sections devoted to Python, Go, Rust, Haskell, Elixir.
Erlang programming, too.
Yep. We see logs detailing the construction of things like an Elixir library for reading, but the technical logs are rigorous, and they sit right alongside entries that seemingly have nothing to do with software at all.
This is my favorite part. You navigate through the site and you find notes on meditation, notes on dieting, notes on typesetting. The organizational framework he uses to track complex software architecture is applied with the exact same level of detail to the analog aspects of his life.
He even extends this to animal husbandry.
Which is amazing.
There are dedicated categories for notes on fish keeping, betta spawn logs, miscellaneous fishes spawn logs.
He observes the life cycle of a fish with the exact same analytical detachment he brings to debugging a Python script.
He really does.
And the list just goes on. Notes on photography, notes on home improvement, notes on guitar. It really reveals a mindset that just absolutely refuses to compartmentalize knowledge.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Aang represents the quintessential learner persona.
Wait, totally.
For him, the subject matter, whether it's compiling an Elixir library, breeding betta fish, or propagating a plant from a cutting, it's almost secondary to the underlying process.
The process is the point.
Exactly. He operates on the philosophy that the mechanism of observing, documenting, and sharing is universally applicable. And crucial to this philosophy is the fact that he doesn't hoard these observations.
That commitment to sharing is so visible across his platform. He is an outspoken advocate for the ethos of open knowledge.
Right. He explicitly supports organizations dedicated to keeping information accessible and secure.
Unsiloed information.
Unsiloed, yes. He lists the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the Tor Project, the Free Software Foundation, Wikipedia.
He isn't just utilizing open source tools, he is literally embodying the open source philosophy in his daily life. Every note on a guitar chord, Every observation of a fish spawning, it's logged and made available for anyone else traversing that exact same learning curve.
It really creates an interesting framework for looking at our own lives.
It does.
Most of us engage in various hobbies and problem-solving exercises every day, but we treat them as ephemeral experiences.
Right, we fix a leaky faucet, we tweak a soup recipe, we figure out a workaround in a spreadsheet at work.
And then we immediately forget the specific steps we took.
That is exactly the point I want to highlight for you listening right now. Think about your own pursuits, the side projects, the hobbies, the daily friction points you navigate. How would your relationship with those activities change if you applied this methodology?
It's a great question.
If you treated your daily challenges as data points to be systematically documented, rather than just isolated chores to get through, what patterns would start to emerge in your own learning process?
That mindset shift from passive consumer of experiences to active documenter is exactly what sets the stage for this specific gardening post from March 3rd, 2026.
Yes, the chlorosis post.
Because despite this massive archive, and despite having successfully propagated numerous plant species over the years, he encounters a systemic failure he has never documented before.
Which brings us to Notes on Gardening, Part 823. Even after 822 previous entries detailing his botanical experiments, he hits an edge case.
A bug in the system.
Exactly. He notes in the entry that the issue he is observing is entirely new to him. It's a biological condition known as interveinal chlorosis.
And he provides a really clear, precise definition of the symptom for his readers. Interveinal chlorosis manifests when the leaf tissue of a plant begins to turn yellow, but the veins running through the leaf stubbornly remain green.
Visually, it is a very distinct pattern. It's not just the uniform yellowing of an old leaf simply dying off.
No, it's very specific.
The skeletal structure of the leaf stays a vibrant green, while the spaces in between just sort of fade out. It creates this striking contrast, and to anyone observing the system, it's a glaring red flag that the biological machine is failing to process something correctly.
What's fascinating here is his diagnostic approach.
Yes.
Encountering a failing plant often triggers an emotional response in casual gardeners. A rush to overwater or randomly apply whatever chemicals happen to be sitting in the shed.
Panic watering, I call it.
Panic watering, exactly. But Ang approaches the yellowing leaf with the empirical calm of a developer reading a stack trace.
He identifies this specific symptom: yellow tissue, green veins.
He consults his knowledge base and external research, and he narrows down the potential variables causing the failure.
He views the plant as a biological machine throwing an error code. And the documentation for interveinal chlorosis points to two distinct, highly probable culprits.
Right.
He concludes that the pattern is a classic sign of either a resource bottleneck, specifically a nutrient deficiency like a lack of iron, or a physical hardware constraint.
Meaning root stress.
Right.
By isolating those two variables, he removes the mystery from the problem entirely. An iron deficiency means the plant's internal transport system doesn't have the necessary raw materials to produce chlorophyll in the leaf tissue, even though the veins are still functioning.
Right, the pipes are working, but the water's off.
Good analogy. And root stress means the physical environment, the container, is compressing the root system to the point where it can no longer physically uptake the resources that might actually be present in the soil.
So he has his symptom, he has isolated the two probable causes, and the next logical step in this workflow is to prepare a patch.
A hot fix.
The hot fix. If the issue is a nutrient deficiency, the immediate solution is pretty straightforward. He notes that applying a water-soluble fertilizer will deliver the missing resources, the iron, directly into the system, bypassing the deficiency.
Unless the problem is the physical constraint.
Right.
Supplying more resources won't fix a system that has run out of physical capacity to absorb them. Which brings us to his second variable and its corresponding patch.
The new pot.
Yep. If the culprit is root stress, the immediate fix is to transplant the affected cutting into a larger pot with fresh potting mix. This relieves the physical pressure on the root network and provides the structural space necessary for the plant to resume normal function.
For those of you managing your own indoor ecosystems, those are two highly actionable takeaways. If you spot that specific pattern, yellow tissue, green veins, you now have a binary troubleshooting trait.
Exactly.
You test a water-soluble fertilizer to patch a nutrient gap, or you scale up the physical environment by repotting to relieve root stress. But applying a patch is really only half of the engineering cycle.
Precisely. A quick fix keeps the current system running, but it doesn't address the underlying architecture that allowed the error to occur in the first place.
No, it doesn't.
And this is where Eng's methodology truly diverges from the average hobbyist.
So what does this all mean for his broader gardening project? After he outlines the immediate solutions, he conducts a full retrospective on the entire propagation process.
He analyzes the initial parameters of his experiment.
Right.
In the post, he notes that while the exact requirements depend slightly on the specific plant species, the most effective way to handle this issue is to just prevent it entirely.
Which makes sense.
He concludes that for future propagation, he needs to ensure he uses a larger container right from the very beginning of the cutting stage.
He is basically updating the baseline code for version 2.0. By acknowledging that the original container size was a vulnerability, he changes the initial deployment parameters.
Yep.
If he starts with a larger pot, he preemptively eliminates root stress as a potential variable, drastically reducing the chances of interveinal chlorosis ever developing at all.
It really highlights the difference between reactive maintenance and systemic optimization.
That's a great way to put it.
Treating the symptom with fertilizer or emergency repotting costs time and energy. It's an inefficient use of resources. By identifying the root cause and adjusting his initial approach, he optimizes his future workflow.
And he also includes the caveat that this depends on the plant species, which just demonstrates his commitment to accuracy.
He understands that biological systems are nuanced.
Right. A universal rule doesn't apply to every single variable.
This mirrors the software development cycle perfectly. You encounter a bug in production, the chlorosis. You deploy a hotfix to keep the user experience stable, the fertilizer or the new pot, and then, crucially, you update the core architecture for the next release so the bug cannot replicate.
And most people skip that final step in their personal lives.
They absolutely do.
We constantly apply hotfixes to our daily problems without ever stepping back to redesign the system that keeps generating them.
That failure to update our personal architecture is exactly why so much of our daily effort feels repetitive.
It's exhausting.
When you embrace this model, treating every failure, every yellowing leaf, every broken script as a neutral data point to be logged and analyzed, your knowledge base compounds.
Failure loses its sting.
It simply becomes the necessary input for your next iteration.
That shift in perspective from frustration to analytical curiosity is incredibly powerful. And it really brings us to our core takeaways from this deep dive.
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground.
On a practical level, you now have the diagnostic tools for intervenal chlorosis.
Yeah.
You know the visual cues, and you know the two primary troubleshooting paths, nutrient patching or physical repotting.
But beyond the botanical advice, the broader takeaway is the absolute value of this cross-disciplinary rigor.
Yes.
Whether you are managing the spawn logs of miscellaneous fish, writing functional programming code, or trying to keep a houseplant alive, the discipline of observation, documentation, and open sharing is universally effective.
We want to challenge you to integrate a bit of this old software plumber methodology into your routine this week.
Try it out.
When you encounter a failure, say project stalls, a mechanical issue pops up, or a hobby hits a wall, resist the urge to just apply a hotfix and move on.
Treat it as an error code.
Exactly. Log the variables, figure out the immediate patch, but then run retrospective. Ask yourself how you can update your internal architecture so that specific error doesn't happen again.
Approaching life with that level of systematic documentation not only improves your own processes, but as Eng demonstrates with his commitment to open knowledge platforms, it creates a repository of wisdom that can help others navigate similar challenges.
It transforms an individual struggle into shared data, which leads to a final thought for you to consider today.
Okay.
We have explored the incredible volume of this digital archive. Thousands upon thousands of posts, logging everything from software architecture to the physical constraints of plant roots.
A massive undertaking.
Right. And he is meticulously building a monument of digital permanence, storing his accumulated wisdom on servers backed by the ethos of the open web. But it introduces an interesting tension.
How so?
If those servers ever go down or the digital infrastructure shifts, does the legacy of the old software plumber disappear? Or does the true lasting legacy of his work actually reside offline? In the physical plants he cultivated, the open source code actively running in the real world, and the countless biological systems he successfully optimized.
Wow. It really challenges us to think about where the actual value of our knowledge lives. Is it in the documentation of the process or in the physical reality of the results?
And taking that a step further, if you were to start a daily detailed log of your own seemingly unrelated problem-solving moments today, What hidden patterns about your own mind and life would you discover 10 years from now?
That is a phenomenal question to leave on.
Something for you to mull over as you optimize your own systems this week? Keep observing, keep documenting, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.